What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Charles Martin. Prince Charles Martin says this about Adam Kownacki. He says Adam Kownacki was pretty effed up and don't know if he can come back from that loss. Charles Martin, he likes and respects Adam Kownacki, the former IBF heavyweight champion, hopes Kownacki can come back after suffering a fourth-round KO to Robert Helenius a couple months ago. And it was a shocking upset, you know, because Adam Kownacki was that next Polish hope, so to speak, after Andrew Galata, which was, you know, that fought or challenged for every sanction and belt that they had, and he was a pretty good fighter, you know, and he wanted to be next in line, but he did take his first loss. And Prince Martin, walk over this world, walk through this world like a god. But anyway, he says, I don't know, man. Martin told Boxing Scene, I don't know. He was pretty effed up. He was pretty bad. He got knocked down the first time, and then he got up too quick. He was already hurt, and then he went down again with the boom, boom, boom. The 1, 2, 3. He knocked him down again. He got up, but then he was just beating him into submission. That wasn't a good thing for him. He took a lot of punches. Brooklyn's Adam Kownacki now has his first loss. He's 21-15. Was heavily favored to beat Finland's Helenius in a bout. Now, this is what I want to say about that. Charles Martin, you know, he was beaten by Adam Kownacki in a pretty good fight. I watched that fight, you know, frequently. You know, I'm more of a fan of all the heavyweights in between, not just the top. You know what I mean? And actually, you get more entertainment for those fights because these fighters do have flaws, and because they have flaws, you see punches land, and you see you know, scoring punches, knockdowns, knockouts, and everything else in between. Adam Kownacki, you know, he can bounce back. I think they need to take it slow with him. But the ironic thing about this was Robert Helenius wasn't the guy that he could have fought. So it's like that's what makes it so ironic. Robert Helenius was the soft touch. Okay? So I also think that Charles Martin, he's coming off an impressive knockout win over Gerald Washington. And Washington beat Helenius, right? Helenius beat Kownacki. Kownacki beats Charles Martin. But that's how it's supposed to be. Because when everyone fights each other, you're going to have different results each and every time. You know, the outcome will be totally different. Now, I think he can come back. It's just, I think he needs to really work on his defense, because it's not really the punches that hurt him. It's the punches that he was getting hit with anyway that he shouldn't have got hit with, period. Okay? I always said this about Adam Kownacki. What happens when someone hurts him? Because Charles Martin, what made that fight very impressive, Charles Martin started really throwing hard punches. And he was hitting Adam Kownacki. And Adam Kownacki was taking these shots, but he shouldn't have been taking those shots there. So imagine Helenius was catching him, a tall, rangy dude, you know, catching him on the end of these shots with these power shots, and that was really hurting him, you know, and that just really cracked that bell eventually. But it was going to eventually happen when you throw caution to the wind and you don't use the proper defense. Okay, that's just what it is. You know, I seen that coming sooner or later. I thought it was going to be with someone like Deontay Wilder with a big punch that could hit you and knock you out with those type of punches, you know, but it just shows you that can happen with any other fighter. He has to use defense. Now, mind you, it's not over from Adam Kownacki. He just needs to pick himself up, work on his defense, and try again, okay? Anthony Joshua got a piece of that. You remember, like, he just threw caution to the wind and thought that he could just, you know, he was indestructible. You're not invincible, people. Marco Antonio Barrera, one that comes to mind. He got knocked clean out by Junior Jones, okay? Because he thought the punches couldn't hurt him. He was just so macho, right? So But then what did he do? He picked himself back up. Now he's one of the best Mexican fighters, period. Right? You can't say Marco Antonio Barrera is not one of those guys that come to mind when you're talking about great Mexican fighters. Okay. So Adam Kownacki can come back. I think he needs to, regroup, get somebody in there that really cares about him moving his head and having proper defense. I think this is going to I hope it wakes him up, because if it doesn't, the same thing will happen again. Because you can't come in like a George Foreman and think, oh, I'm going to land my punches and nobody's going to hit me back. That's not how it works. So anyway, I do think Charles Martin, he had some truth to what he said. You know what I mean? He was effed up, Charles Martin, Mr. Prince. I walk this earth like a god. That's what I was trying to say earlier. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think about Charles Martin. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.